China has responded to the European Union's changes to the taxes on Chinese-made vehicles. Now, there has been some changes, but the Chinese government, they are, well, let's be honest, they're furious, they're livid, they are unquestionably angry. Have a look at their wording and what they're saying. They are saying, we will retaliate. You will basically pay severe consequences for shutting out our EVs. And in fact, they're saying that the European Union are unfairly using what they claim are dishonest tactics in order to kind of, well, use a measure of protectionism to protect their automotive industry, that they are illegally subsidizing their own automotive industry. Now, that's an interesting claim. After assessing Tesla, the European Union has completely changed its taxes. It recently put some massive taxes on Chinese-made electric cars for Europe, right? Tesla was applied a huge tax. It was about 21%, plus there's a 10% tariff as well. So it was about 31%. That means for Tesla to sell the Model 3 in Europe, it's financially unviable. They'll be losing money selling them at their current prices. That's changed though. In fact, tariffs on BYD, on Geely, so that includes Zeekr and Volvo, Polestar, they've all been changed. But one manufacturer are still being slugged. And the reason they say is because they are Chinese state government owned. They're getting subsidies straight from the Chinese government to the tune of potentially billions of dollars. Hello, my friends. Welcome to the channel. I'm Sam Evans. You're watching the Electric Viking. Great to have you with us. I want to say a big thank you to our Patreon supporters. If you can support the channel on Patreon, that would be great. It does keep me going, keeps the channel going. So I really appreciate everyone who is doing that right now. I'll put a link in the description below. What am I getting to here in terms of the tariffs? The tariffs on Tesla have gone drastically down. Basically, the European Union has said to Chinese automakers, open your books. You open your books to us. We look at all your books. We look at your finances. And we're talking, this is like a pretty invasive stuff here. But if you do this, then there's a good chance we will reduce the tariffs on your company. In fact, they absolutely will if you let them do this. Even if they perceive that you're getting paid by the Chinese government, they still will reduce the tariff for them to get this information from you, right? That's what they've said. The European Union have publicly said that. So Tesla said, yeah, come on, come to China. What's happened is the European Union, their officials have flown to China. They've gone to Tesla's factory. They've assessed Tesla's books. It's taken them about a couple of months to do this. They're pretty slow. And they've completely changed the tariff on Tesla. It's gone down to 9%, which is very, very low. It's the lowest, by far the lowest of any manufacturer. BYD was the lowest at 18%. Tesla was at 21%, which is crazy. But anyhow, Tesla's been reduced to 9% because the European Union said this. They said Tesla is not receiving any direct subsidies or payments from the Chinese government in order to subsidize its EVs unfairly and then to sell them in Europe. So that's the key reason why. Now, BYD, they were open and transparent as well with the European Union. So their tariff has been changed as well. BYD's tariff, what actually is it? It's 17%. So it's gone down by a couple of percent. Not much though. But that still is the best number for any Chinese manufacturer. BYD is wholly owned by investors. There's no state government ownership. You might think there is if you're one of those conspiracy theorists from, who hates everything about China, which I understand that. But if you're one of those conspiracy theorists, you're going to say something in comments, no, every Chinese car company is owned by the government. I tell you, sonny boy, I know this. You don't know anything. These kind of people know jack shit about EVs. They know jack shit about car companies. They can't be bothered to do any real research and find out actually BlackRock owns a percentage of this company. Investment funds from America own a percentage. Probably your 501k is heavily invested in Chinese manufacturers. You don't even know it. You probably never looked at this information. That's all true. In fact, these American hedge fund companies probably own more of BYD than anyone from the state government does. And in fact, very little ownership, very transparent BYD because they're a public company listed on a stock exchange. You can buy them. I used to own the stock. And I know who the investors are, and none of them are the Chinese government, unless there's some bizarre trickery going on. So that's why BYD is taxed at a very low rate, 17%. Geely, 19.3%. Their tariff went down, but not by much, by about 1%. SAIC, all right, well, SAIC Motors is very obviously and publicly owned by the Chinese state government. Their tariff is therefore 36%. So who does that affect? That affects MG, all right? MG actually were, or still are, up until I think last month, the best-selling Chinese EV manufacturer in Europe by a mile, because people in Europe think that they're British. That's not everyone, but the majority of them do, because MG used to be British, and obviously SAIC Motors bought MG way back, more than 10 years ago. So there's a brand awareness there. But that's going to change now because, a 36% tariff, because there's also a 10% tariff that all manufacturers have to pay. That means 46% total tariff for MG vehicles. It means, 27% for BYD, Geely 29%, Tesla 19%. Still, those numbers are nowhere near as bad as what they initially were feared to be. Tariffs, though, if you are not willing to open your books up to the European Union, then they say non-cooperating companies. That means you're a non-cooperating company, and the tariff for you is then 37.6%, which ends up being 47.6%, or basically the same as SAIC Motors or MG. So, you have to really open your books up, otherwise you can't sell in. You really can't do anything in Europe. Now, companies like Xpeng, Xpeng's G9, that's the best-selling large electric vehicle in Norway. In a few different European countries it is. Xpeng are continuing to sell all across Europe. They're investing massively into Germany. They're building all these distribution networks across Europe. What are they going to do with all these huge tariffs? I don't know what Xpeng's tariff is. It hasn't been disclosed. I would assume at this point in time it's probably 37.6% or 47.6%. Plus they've got to export the cars all out of Europe. It just doesn't seem economically viable for them. Hopefully they can get down to something like BYD. If that's the case, if they can do that, and I think they probably can, then their tariffs would be much more reasonable and they can probably do business based on BYD's tariff. So BYD, Geely, they are clearly perceived by the European Union, based on their numbers, that they are getting some subsidies from the Chinese government, but not that many. That's what the European Union are telling us here. I think this means, based on these numbers, Geely and BYD, they'll continue to do business as usual in Europe. That said, EV sales from Chinese manufacturers last month did fall by a staggering 46%. Tesla did say it would increase the price of the Model 3 because of these tariffs. Maybe Tesla won't do that now that this tariff rate for them has been slashed by a significant figure, by more than 50%. Guys, this will be interesting to see what happens in Europe. I'll follow the European car market and continue to report on that for you over the coming months to see how this all plays out. Keep in mind, companies like Leapmotor, they're already planning on building a factory in Italy. BYD, they're building one in, I think, Morocco, Turkey, I believe Hungary as well. So Chinese manufacturers are working out ways to get around paying these tariffs at all, to just completely circumvent them. Thanks for watching.